Right. 5 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. 5 minutes. No despair. You pretend you despise the pain of before. Now you're begging for a little more. On my scars, on display for your delight. Witness suffering so dignified. I keep on bleeding for your devotion. It's glowing in your eyes. I keep on fueling this celebration. One moment in my life. If I say to your hunger nevermore, you will surely ask for an encore. My agony is pure and Julia certified. It is on sale for quite a decent price. I keep on bleeding for your devotion. It's glowing in your eyes. I keep on fueling this celebration. One moment in my bow. A queen was on the crown, buried in my skin. I dig on the prairies to feel alive. I'm drenched in the guilt, consumed from the real there. My kingdom of despair will shine. And then watching me crucified. I keep on bleeding for your devotion. It's glowing. Buford, South Carolina. Marine Corps Air Station is where I was stationed. Ladies and gentlemen, it's 8 o'clock. If you are here live, welcome and welcome. Welcome to the Laughing Lamp. I am your host, Jin of the Lamp, and I am your inner fear. Sure, called myself a few names last week, and I like to believe that I am somewhat those things. Well, we can get into those theories if you like. I got no problem with it. But it's just a perspective that I am, once again, allowed to have. I'm allowed to have these things. I don't know why the world likes to look at you as a weirdo or anything of that sort. We all actually think clichely. All humans think the same things. The households, the environments, the communities tell us what to hush hush, what to not talk about, what to discuss, so on and so forth. Needless to say, you and your friend are probably thinking the same thing. Hell, you and your parents are probably thinking the same things. You and a whole lot of people are thinking the same things. And the shameful part of that is you and a lot of people were taught, be careful what you say. I don't care about being careful what I say or how I say it, to whom I say it to. Things need to be said. Sure, I understand, back and forth, 1 + 1. At the end of the day, your job is here. You ended up where you ended up. I don't blame that on anything else except the corrupted world around me. Now, when I specify that, it's because when I start to explain, which I'll get into, my upbringing, my experiences, my job searches, my college experiences, things when I start to share to you, yes, they come from a one-eyed perspective, mine. It's my story. It's the way I saw the attacks come at me. It's the way I saw the challenge presented to me. Everything that I've ever done when it comes to how I organized myself at church, to who was it in tag, was always an organized way of figuring out 1 + 1 mathematics on who's the fastest runner and so on and so forth. And you figure out the friends, the strengths and weaknesses of your buddies, your friends, and who's always running back to home base to be safe and who's always following the other people. And well, you learn a lot about people. And this is just childhood activities. But during those activities, those of us who paid attention to a different degree than our other friends, or then again, I still claim that we all thought the same, meaning we all saw the same things amongst our friends, but don't tell them this now, don't call them this, it's not right. Oh Lord, we had a speaker mishap. No problem, I shut that off and we took care of that situation. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to get started right off the bat. I have quite a few things to say. This has been an eventful week, especially for my brothers and sisters in arms, if you will. Yes, I'm a Navy guy. I'm a sailor, and you can call me non-combat all you like, but I have Marine Corps friends. I've got Army friends. I got a lot of Air Force friends. I mean, I got a lot of different branches of friends, some still in and some out doing whatever they're doing out in the civilian world, whatever it is they do. To each their own on the progression of their life and how we make it. At the end of the day, we realize, this is the way I look at it, we realize I can live with certain outcomes and certain decisions, and this is a way of life I don't mind living, meaning I don't mind staying in the military service and doing what I need to do to maintain my rank and climb and so on and so forth. I don't mind being a department warehouse manager or so on and so forth, and just I'm satisfied where I'm at. I'm doing what I need to do in order to keep going. Even if the bosses make you have to do something you don't want to do. Now, I understand that could be defined in many different aspects. Yeah, but what do you mean? Like they asked me to go work outside in the rain? There are decisions that are made, and there are decisions that need to be done. And as we say the saying, shit rolls downhill. Well, I'd like to start by saying, how did the shit get there? Did we just throw you a bunch of shit and give you the chance to crumble it into a ball just to throw it back in us? Because we've already figured out the answer and response you're going to give us. But we were hoping for a different outcome, which is why we asked the question and went up the chain of command in the first place. At least that's how I look at it. Well, I don't need to hear something I already knew and then get told in a private meeting that, well, if you already knew, then why did you even attempt to send this shit up here? It could come right back down on you. Well, because I figured my hierarchy, who told me to do such things, excuse me for following instructions, would help with the situations. Well, every hierarchy I've ever dealt with was wrong. Ended up being a little baby bitch snitch, whatever. So you learn not to say anything. You keep your mouth shut. You learn to put your blinders on so you don't see anything. And if you do hear anything, you will walk away because you don't want to get caught in that tornado pyramid of saying something. I have seen and heard a lot from childhood to schooling to work, military service, and whether I said something or not, it's actually what got me in trouble for the most part. And they would correct me in silence, meaning find a way to get this guy to just shut the fuck up or move on from the situation, if you will. I don't know, just move on from this, grow out of it, get out of here, whatever excuse it is, move on. Well, okay, I can't. And I always end up speaking back about it because I've always had the initial perspective of what's going on. I feel like I called it out, and then I also feel like they had to just silence me about it. Well, once again, I may have said this in the past couple of videos, but I only had one boss to really curb me in the ways of how things really work. I've had my parents, they showed me a whole lot of things too. They trained me, they taught me, and yeah, friends, everybody. But one real boss who took a serious interest in my personality, in me as a whole. And I guess he tried to curb me into something that he would be able to potentially use. And I kind of ran away from that. And if I was to have any regrets in my life, it would be leaving this employer. Anyway, what happened because I left? Well, I entered a whole new world of employment. I'm a stranger to them, and they are all strangers to me, which goes to our post for today, before we get into the big news, because other posts will relate to that. When you find a new world, you shouldn't complain about strangers. For example, I moved from city to city or county to county, state to state. I am the stranger encroaching upon somebody else's pre-established community, and they need to get to know who you are. But they as well are strangers to you. So you have to find a way to comply with them in a nicely manner and get yourself done. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to fake myself to you. The approval to move into your neighborhood was already given by real estate, so on and so forth. Somebody already said you are okay to live here. The community now, after you've wasted your money, can find a way to uproot your ass and get you the fuck out of there if they don't like the way you live your life's standards according to their neighborhood. I said this on the very first video. Meth Park. Yeah, it is what it is. The big number 2. Most of life, I guess, is a big pile of shit when we try to sift through what's going on. Well, shit rolls uphill, downhill. Oh, it's a lot of shit going on. A big number 2 going on everywhere. 2s, 211s, 11s for fact, or for example, excuse me. But those are more personality traits. He's a 2. What kind of 2? Well, he gets what he's doing and he's still... Okay, well, there's different ways of describing, and I see a whole lot of 11s out there. Hey, needless to say, you find a new world. We moved away. We settled here. We don't know anybody here. 211? 211 is a theory that I came up with when it came to just normal studying of human behavior, and I realized from the simplicity of a mathematical equation, I can see a difference in personality traits that relates to that cliche of humanity. Human cliche, meaning, well, when we get in trouble, we hide, we lie, we do what we have to for our parents. We don't want to get, even though we may be the only child, or obviously the little one didn't do it, the little sibling. But it teaches us how a person deals with the situation, how a person hops on board with situations, and it explains a lot about your friends. You come up with an idea. You might not be on all board of it, so you're looking for that input from your other friends. Your other friends can give you building blocks of inputs, ideas, goods and bads, circles that unite within differences and similarities. Your other friend says, oh, that's just a great idea. I'm on board with you. Why, I didn't give you a line of Coke. You need to slow down. What about the same person could also say, I have an idea and I'm just going balls in. But hey, you're 11, man. I know everything sounds good, but why don't you take the time to stop burning your rubber? Wait a minute, there's a stop sign or a red light somewhere. Take the time to think about your idea, where you're heading off to on this road of yours, and then decide whether that's the path you want. Everything sounds good. Well, I want to say everything sounds good, but a lot of ideas may sound initially good. And then obviously when we go through the process, whether it's a straight shot of, oops, we hit a block. We hit a problem, whether we dealt with it or not. Oh, now we have to deal with it. Excuse me. The two, well, there's two kinds of twos. I understand that. The building blocker two, the Greek two, if you will, the Roman numeral two. I hate that Roman factor because of you Roman Catholics. But the idea being, I have an idea and I know where I could potentially go. What do y'all think? Well, let's lean towards positives, and here's the negatives on those. Well, I see the positives outweigh negatives and the negatives can outweigh the positives. Maybe not the best idea. But you got this one friend still going, nah, it's a great idea. Oh, wait, no, you're right. No, it's a bad idea. You're right. No, that's a good idea. Make up your mind. Make up your mind. What idea? Is this a good idea or a bad idea? I don't need you here if you're just going to take something I say and go with it, good or bad. I do need somebody to help build on the idea. Our partners are big, crucial parts of that. When you get to know them on a first date or something of that nature, you get to building block on their personalities. They build on your personalities. And the second date may or may not be established from there. Job interview, same thing. Couple of days at work, same thing. They feel you out. Everybody gets felt out. They recognize your pattern of behavior as a go all in, no questions asked perhaps, or he may think too much, or he understands the way how it is. This guy was a good guy for the team. Here's my problem with that too in my 211 theory. That's just the way it is. It's the only way to do it. It's not, but society, corporations, the jobs we get, military hierarchy, rules and regulations that are set forth within the career that we choose only allow us to abide by certain standards, regardless of how we feel about the patient, about the client, about the whoever we're dealing with, the customer, so on and so forth. Everybody requires a different form of assistance. And even the person you're trying to help may just be, oh, yes, that's a good idea. Oh, well, you're right. No, that's bad. But then what do I got to do? Slow down, stop. I don't know what you took before you came into my office, but you need to take a minute and think about what you're doing, what you're saying. I do that, and I still say what I say personally as Jinn of the Lamp. I say a lot of outrageous things. I claim that I'm saying what everybody's thinking, they're just afraid to say it. Well, kind of like a comedian then. Gladly, I set my format up as entertainment, to allow me the opportunity to, in a sense, get away with whatever I need to say. At the end of the day, I'm saying my version of a truth that I have seen, whether you agree with it or not. I hate the word promise, but I promise this much. You have met twos, you have met other twos, and you have definitely met your fair share, if you want to admit yourself sometimes, of 11s. This is what 211 theory is. Establishes the human mentality and how we go on board with ideas and everything about our personalities, how we deal with education, how we deal with a child, how we deal with our work, how we deal with the HR, how we deal with the customers. You can't, well, sometimes you may have to just go all in with the customer because we're taught or told customer is always right. You know damn right inside your body that customer ain't always right. It's just another stranger for you to impress. But don't complain about that stranger. That's your customer base. All of you guys are pretty much strangers, whether you're friends or not, or you know who I am or not, because again, I have this hope that you invited the strangers to come watch it, the strangers to share it, and so on and so forth, more than you guys yourselves. Whether it's an entertainment factor or not, share it. Let them know that we're not the only crazy thinkers here. And I'm trying to brag about myself because, hey, who's to say that I'm not clinically insane myself? But I like to say, if I am, how did I get this far? I snuck past regular public school education. I snuck past the military with an honorable discharge. And I snuck past college after that. Now, the civilian world hits me after that. And I get called out on my ways of thinking about the businesses I work for, what I saw some of the employees that I worked with do, say, handle a situation, whatever it might be. I noticed something wrong. And as I present it to my hierarchy, shut your mouth. We'll handle it. Then you get an excuse. Don't worry. Okay, we'll take care of it. We'll talk to them. We'll do that. Then you, for example, still see the person on the job and your curiosity, kitty. Hey, man, office talk to you? Or anybody say anything to you about it, that situation? Now, does that person realize that you're the snitch and hide and lie from you? But the face tells it all. The eyes tell it all. The human behavior tells it all. Of course, they know you're the snitch. All right. That's 211. The idea of strangers and complaint, you can't. You move to a new state. Don't complain about the strangers you move into, and you are the stranger to them. Let them. They're allowed to complain to you about you. That's the way it is. Get used to it, conform, and do what you need to do to make it work. Yeah, sometimes we don't like what we have to do, but we do it anyway. I tell you from my opinion here, you have a bed bug in your bed. Lots of you, if not all of you, have bed bugs in your beds. You don't have to agree with me. You can disagree all you like. But at the end of the day, when you think about your actions in your own life, how many strangers you could have lied to. Well, I mean, again, it depends on what you believe in. What your sixth sense tells you about today's lie to this person. How you felt about saying this line to that person because it was that person specifically, but a different story. You're going to feel a sixth sense, a feeling of something when you explain even the same story with the same words to different people. If I told my parents a story of something, just a good example, I guess, if I can, my bad grades, admitting to them my bad grades and the reason for why has one story. I'm going to take that same exact story and tell my friend that story. They're going to respond differently. That's natural human behavior. Your friend is thinking about it on a different perspectival level and is trying to either keep you as a friend or he realized or she realized that you're a bit crazy and I might need to push you away today. But a real friend would notice that, I guess, right? If we had to define what a real friend is, a real friend would recognize that you're overthinking or holy shit, dude, that's a little, why don't we sit down and find a way to settle this out? Get this out of the way. Okay, good. You'd like to talk? You like to converse? Wonderful. Would you get off Facebook, please? Get off your phone. Otherwise, I start to notice that your lack of interest is pissing me off more than the problem I originally had. Let's go out and have some dinner, guys. All right, that cell phone. Another way to make your closest friends a complete stranger to you. Let's all hang out at IHOP or Applebee's or so on and so forth, and every single one of you take out your cell phones. Well, don't complain about your strangers. Those are the friends you grew up with, that you knew what their habits were and whether you wanted to talk tonight or not. They're still on their phones, whether they're listening or not. And I don't believe in that put your phone in a bowl thing. I don't do that because if you have to do that, you're just as pathetic as somebody. I might as well. I'm done with you. If you have to go with that route, forget it. I'm not going to get in there. That we get into the mentally unstable portion of myself. My next post is very interesting because it relates to what had happened in Afghanistan. I'm not going to get into details about the presidency or anybody or put blame on anything. Not at this moment. I would like to just introduce a perspective, things I learned about my friends that were there at the time. I wasn't there. I was on a boat. I was in a ship. I was deployed on the USS Nimitz during the 2009-2010 era of this war. But I have had, I've knew people who had relatives and cousins that were there as soon as it started back in 2001 when we started going over there. I have Marine friends that were on the ground there. I have Army friends I met through college that were on the ground there. And they've shared their experiences with me. And I mean, I don't understand war, but I wasn't on the ground. What can I say? I can't speak on a perspective that I can't really relate with. What I can only speak on is the experiences that were shared to me. For example, amphetamines in a can to make sure the soldiers are awake. That's just one example. And an Army friend of mine told me that, and I got the confirmation of that through a Marine friend of mine. Speaking of military, just real quick, those of you who hail from my home city, I guess we'll call it the home city because it's where I graduated from, of Garfield, New Jersey. I know they have a new sign out front of the high school nowadays, but before that electrical media sign, digital sign that they had a plaque where like a gas station would to hang up the prices of all their past, at the time, military members that have served and are serving currently. My name was up there, a couple of Marine friends, my best friend was up there. A former classmate of ours who passed away during, I think, a SEAL training mission, if I'm not mistaken. Those of you who remember Mr. Porter, may he rest in peace. Needless to say, I was the one that went to the high school in my dress whites, and I talked to those of you who remember this name, Mr. Mucha, and one of the young buck officers who was still there at the time. I mean, he was a steroidy guy, so if you guys know what I'm talking about, you get it. Pretty boy cop, you know what I mean? Shouldn't be there, probably fucked most of your daughters. Oh, reality sucks! No, that's what they did. Yeah, that's what they did. Needless to say, they were there, and they took the information that I had about certain military members that were in the service, and they did, I guess, some research, and they found a whole bunch more names, but they eventually posted a plaque of those who serve, we thank those. Now, I don't know if the digital message is there, but my point of that story is, you're welcome. Ibrahim Hanna Jin did it. The supposed guy y'all made fun of for being a relative or relation to these mother people that did what they did. I was the one that made sure that our heroes were actually honored. You're welcome. I know it's a thankless job, just like cops would say theirs is, and nurses and doctors and other career sources would say it's a thankless job. What I did wasn't even a job, but it sure as hell was a thankless one, nor do I care for any thanks. I thought that we deserved to have the recognition for the sacrifices that we make. So the post today, well, one of the posts, I should say, past week. Mentally unstable, kind of like people tell me that I am all the time. Reasons why they got rid of me in certain workforce positions. Tell that to my brothers and sisters who survived and or sacrificed, and actually those who survived still sacrificed, and those who sacrificed may not have survived. It's an interesting play on words, and I'm sure we're used to that idea. Tally up or Taliban. Keep a chin up, beardos. That's something. Keep a chin up, beardos. It's something I heard my army friend tell me that they would do in a group meeting. Chin up, chin up. And it was, I guess it was a joke on how to target the enemy. But they made a game out of it. They made it what they needed it to be to get past the unfortunate circumstances that they were in. We all do that. We make everything, or we try to. Some of us wallow in our self-pity and make everything negative for those that are around us. That's how you want to do it. Fine. That's the aura that you would like to represent to your family. That's the aura you want to show your friends. Okay. But don't show them mix and match either, because they're watching you. Friends, family, they're all watching you. Today's decision of no because turns into a yeah, all right, why not? They've been watching you and they coerced you. Even the yeah turns into a no. Doesn't matter. The point is you were watched and you were... they tried to get you back on track, if you will. But it's interesting. If I'm giddy, happy, why would you want to depress me? And if I am depressed, I could see why you want to perk me up. But how would you know what the problem is in the first place? You cannot fix my marital issue just because you solved yours. Being in the military, ain't no military personnel can tell me how to solve my marriage. What I know and what I saw in the military is we all cheated. We all did what we had to do. We all had cravings that we couldn't hold in. I say that, but I caved in twice myself. Admission of guilt. Well, I wouldn't call it guilt, because in my stomach, in my soul, in my sixth sense, I don't feel bad about it. At the end of the day, I don't. That's what differentiates me from these 7 deadly sins and all that other stuff. To the road or to the school where it could be more visible. Either way, it's still nice getting that respect from the school. I thought it was wonderful and beautiful, and it was something nice to be proud of. When we went back home, Thanksgiving and Christmases, or whatever chance we could, it was nice to see that, yeah, we're home again, and wow, recognition, and there's my name. Yeah, it makes you feel special. If I can call your name out in a random lottery, don't you feel good when you win? Well, sometimes we get nervous about winning. I don't want everybody to see me do it, but the attention is still nice. It's nice to have that recognition that you are a part of something, whether those who perceive it as a good thing, a bad thing, you're going to get made fun of for it. You're going to be called killers. You're going to be called... I never directly pulled the trigger or dropped the bomb. However, I did maintain the aircrafts for their capability to succeed in such missions. So in essence, it's right, the connection, connect the dots. If I can repair the airplane that flies to drop the bomb, then I'm just as guilty as the man who pressed the trigger to drop the bomb. I still don't feel bad about the enemies we killed. And even if we ended up killing civilians, my stomach hasn't felt bad about it. There's an admission for certain wackadoos out there. Sometimes we just don't care. Now that goes on also what's on our mind. I don't care because I just needed to get by for my GI Bill. I had to do what I had to do, which means at the time, okay, you could admit to me what the bomb actually did, but I don't care. I just need to service the damn aircraft and move on to the next job. That was my job. When I saw something wrong with the job, I said something. If I heard somebody miscommunicate what to do in a job, I said something. That's how I worked. It doesn't always work in your favor. You're still perceived upon as some form of a snitch, whether it's a work ethical snitch or now a personal ethical snitch. Well, for example, I remember when I first reported to my squadron, I was warned about a certain female who would, well, get involved with sexual activities with the sailors, especially the new ones, and then the next day she'd cry rape. A lot of guys got in trouble for that at my squadron. They were already written up for it. They got a bad record due to a sexual encounter. They were all drinking, whatever. But this is the kind of people you meet in the service, males and females. There's no distinction on that. Things happen, and things happen, male or female. If somebody, well, we're taught in the service, if somebody heard you say something derogatory from about a half a block away or whatever, they heard it, or they saw you do something, they can just as much write you up for that thing that you did. So we technically always have to watch out when we whip out our schlongs, when we say the F word, and when we drop other bombs, because somebody's listening. Well, those snitches don't get in trouble. There's something I failed to communicate, which is a shame that I tried to talk about communication, and I failed to communicate a lot. But I understand that. But what is a snitch? Is a snitch me going to the cops? Is a snitch me going to HR? Is a snitch me going to my manager, supervisor? Yeah, but we get penalized a different way for those kinds of snitching. What about the snitch, for example, Tony snitching on Joey to Donnie about side businesses? Will they still climb the soldier ranks? Maybe. The snitch is recognized for snitching, but how did he snitch and about what did he snitch? No, keep him in the ranks. You understand? At the end of the day, you end up snitching one way or another. You have multiple children, they'll snitch on each other. Hell, I have 9 cats. Kitties that snitch on each other. The guilty one doesn't, the non-guilty one doesn't run away. Cats have the same feature. Needless to say, that's their way of, I guess, lying, if you will. One way of lying. Tell that to my friends who sacrificed. So you mentally trick us into going overseas. Let's just put it that way. You mentally forced us overseas. Let me relate another post that goes along with this. Lead a horse to water. Lead a soldier to war. Lead a child to education. Lead a sinner to religion. What beautiful leadership is this? Let's go back into the sayings and dig into it just a little bit. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't force him to drink. Okay? You could lead a child to education. You can't force them to learn. You could lead a sinner to religion, but you can't force them to convert. Ask a soldier. Lead him to war. Can you force him not to kill? Let's use the religious excuse that we all hear them using. But in what religion are you? You'll be forgiven because it's an act in war. At the end of the day, hold on one moment, ladies and gentlemen. Not the cops. Yes, that's a very good distinction on ratting and snitching. Yes, we would use different terminology for it, but at the end of the day, it's who you told and how you told and how much you told, and you're still going to be written off as some form of snitch. For Christ's sake, if you go up to the person themselves and confront them, you snitched to them, and now they know you know, and you're out, buddy. Goodbye. So we led the horse to water. We couldn't force him to drink, but we said that. But you could lead a soldier to war, and you can't exactly tell him don't kill anybody. Boy, if the enemy shows up, he's going to do what he has to do. Here's my point, religious freaks. Tell that same soldier that their God or gods forgives them. Huh? Okay. Whether I believe in a bigger value of spirituality or a God or whatever out there forgiving me for what I've done, I have to live with it. Can I forgive myself, or did I just create a bug in my bed I will never get rid of? Can't say never, that's a harsh word. I have to find a way to forgive myself for killing another human or taking away another human life, regardless of whether my reverend or so on told me, God will forgive you because as a soldier you are. No, that's how the Crusades began, and that's the reason why all your religions kill, because they find the loophole like your lawyer would do. There's an interesting thought. What is a lawyer's job? But what makes a lawyer a high-paying lawyer versus a low-paying lawyer? Nothing except this. You pay them to study the case with the words, the grammar. Yes, you're also paying for the handshakes that they're capable of doing behind the scenes, but they don't tell you that that's business. Business besides the business that they take from you. They got to grab your money. They got to read your record. Then they tell you as much potential truth. And trust me, I've been through this. Potential truth about the case. And what they're doing is like every other human being. Fishing. Everybody's a fucking angler nowadays. Let's get some information out of you so I can see what kind of human you are, what kind of bait I need, and how to get you where I need you. You're being used. You're being manipulated for your weaknesses and your strengths. And whether you see it or not, you go all in because I need the money. I got kids to feed. I have a family. I understand that. And I know that for myself. But I'm going to live my life okay with me. Get into a debate with a family member of mine, and they try to tell me all the time, Jin, you got to stay happy, man. You got to be happy. You got to find your happiness. This family member's definition, you see the perspectival difference here. Their definition of happiness is strippers, booze, and a good fucking time out. At any age. It's not mine. It's never been my happiness to be at strip clubs, to be at bars, to get drunk. I like to go bowling. I have a few drinks with it. I like to play pool. Have a few drinks with it, things like that. I mean, I don't drink, so the idea is I'm actually using a different substance. And for the example of the story, I have to say it that way. It helps communicate the unity idea. We do something and we go out and enjoy ourselves. We do end up stimulating ourselves in some form or manner. Cigarettes is a stimulant. It's all kind. You do something. Yeah, whatever. Here's the point. Well, let's keep. I actually lost my point just to stay on the honest track. We led a horse to water. Now I'm going to actually change the perspective. The soldier to war thing. I can't sit here and have. Oh, I'm gonna have to pause, ladies and gentlemen. I do apologize. I have a visitor at the door, and I have to check on who it is. Okay. That's being dealt with by my partner at home. I had a knock on the door. She'll deal with it. You're going to tell me that, don't worry, Mr. Jin, all is forgiven due to the fact, at the end of the day, I have to live with that kill. I have to, for God's sakes, in my own home, again, the stripper stuff, what I like to do for happiness. It's a lot of truth. It's the harshest way to live, in my opinion, because you're always calling out what you believe, what you think. All our thoughts are wrong until we know. And we always disputing with that. Hey, don't do it that way. That's not the right. Well, who are you to judge the right way to do it? My sixth sense is telling me something different than your sixth sense. There are, I want to say, and I hate to say it that way. In essence, not that killers are bred or liars are bred. No, all this stuff is curbed and learned from somewhere. I mean, for Christ's sake, let's stop admitting lies. Cartel teach murder at 6 years old. They have quinceañeras at 15. It's a sexual act of bringing a woman in. It's the Jewish and the Hebrews, they have the same kind of idea. They bring a male in at 13. They turn him into a man. I can dig into it in the nastiest of ways, and then their books will have a worded way to talk about it, and the rabbi will have an explanation way to do it. And at the end of the day, I have to define it my own way. I have to make that crazy information normal to me. And unfortunately, my perspective of the olden days and my perspective of today's day doesn't really differentiate in how I read that specific line, whether it's meant for a male, meant for a female. I mentioned that once before in maybe my first video, if I'm not mistaken, or perhaps my second. But needless to say, all those lines are taken differently. So why can't I look at your 13-year-old bar mitzvah as a sexual adult bringing in, and a quinceañera as a sexual adult bringing in? A lot of Latina women, unfortunately, have some bad backgrounds in sex growing up. And with all due respect to any cartel upbringing, and any kind of gang upbringing, they use kids. That's how they brainwash. They got to bring it in and make it my next door neighbor. They are legitimized. Well, I guess they're associates because I can't prove that they are, but they're associates to two well-known Crips at this park, and they do what they got to do. That kid has to grow up with the mentality of his father, Mr. Stay Dangerous. Stay dangerous. I ain't going to stay dangerous, and I would like for your child not to stay dangerous. I don't know what kind of life you live that you need to be dangerous, but perhaps it's because of that life that you live, you have to remain dangerous. Well, eventually those amphetamines wear off and you forget your act, and I catch the softy next door, not the badass who was high or drunk. I get the real you when I knock on your door in the middle of the fucking night to ask you to please move your vehicle. The experience I got, this is a true story because this is the mother that broke into my car too, but the father, the first time I met him, was the stay dangerous moment. But I went to go knock on his door so that he could please move his vehicle out of my way. I have to go to work. And he said, yeah, okay, dude. And he turned around back inside his trailer and he said something to somebody inside. I can't recall. And as he cracked the door back open again to see me, he goes, who the fuck is you? I said, my man, I'm your neighbor from next door. Would you please move your vehicle so I can go to work, man? Oh, yeah, okay, dude. So he moves his car and I said, I rolled the windows down. I said, thank you very much, man. I appreciate it, man. Thank you. Stay safe, man. He goes, pause. Nah, man, stay dangerous. I said to myself on my way to work, fuck, that kid grows up with a stay dangerous, man. Anyway, that's my experience with that neighbor and how things are communicated. That poor kid, bucket to his face or dog mauling, has experiences I didn't have at his age, and I don't have to learn from there. Let me introduce a perspective to you. This is a famous story that I do tell people outside of here, and I apologize for not always being able to remember it here. By the way, today may be a hell of a long session because I got a lot to say. Two families. They both witness, for example, the same incident. We're going to call this incident a stabbing, turn it into something violent. I'm going to specify it as a little bit. They both witness it. One family picks up their child or tells them in some form or manner, get out of here, kiddo. Don't need to be seeing this. You don't need to see this right now. Okay, get that kid out of there. Protection. It's all protection. The other family picks up their child. It's okay, baby. It's okay. It's going to be okay, baby. I know. It's going to be all right. Well, both those kids now have a fucked up perspective on a stabbing, on a bleeding body. They all look at it differently. One child is going to grow up to say, who's here to protect me? And the other one's going to say, oh, that's it. I seen worse. Okay, put those two guys in the same room with a couple of drinks. Will they ever get along? No, there's going to be a fight. There's going to be a differentiating factor. There's going to be something that segregates even further these two human beings. Now, I say it specifically. Black, white, Asian, I don't care what your background is. I bet you your culture taught you this. Huh? Oh, I bet you your household knows how to shake a hand. Black, white, Asian, I bet you know how to shake a hand, a unifying factor of communication. Let's just throw that out the window, though, because at the end of the day, what's up, dog, and yo, dog, and hey, what's up, man? That's going to segregate us. You want to be Catholic about it? You want to be Mormon about it? You want to be Protestant about it? You want to be every something else about it instead of being, for example, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, Christian about it? I'm just throwing that out there. Again, I say that I was born and raised into a Christian religion, so I will use that as a main source of example use. And even my family's country, they come from Syria. Forget the Greek and Armenian side. They'll talk about we're a Syrian household. Okay. Well, we had this. Well, but I have a Catholic view on it. I have a Protestant view on it. I got another money laundering scheme about it. I got a laundromat over here. So laundromat, this keywords. Laundromats, money wash, my favorite word. Focus. What an innocent word. Focus. It's a big word I hear in a lot of jobs that was conferred to me by only one boss. Be careful with that word focus because that usually tells you what medication they're on. Those who need a little extra focus. Amp up, motherfuckers. Amp up. I guess that's what it is, right? Molly, have a good time. Okay. Keep having a good time, ladies and gentlemen. The world is having a horrible time. I want to introduce an interesting thing. Well, the next post is my military memorabilia, some patches. So I'm going to go off the subject just a little bit. And I want to introduce this interesting idea of global warming. Well, anyway, it's a theory that I came up with as a thought process because it actually relates to, if you're familiar with his name, Michio Kaku's string theory. Everything is a vibrating string of a pattern. Everything that you see, everything, every light beam, every sound, everything is a vibrating string of it. Cats purr, right? I know that's the interesting thing. Cats purr. And they huddle in prides or groups, and dogs may not purr, but they'll settle in groups, they warm up. You'll cuddle with your wife, your husband, your partner, whoever they are, and y'all feel a little extra warm. It's the body heat. Why is my car a danger for this global warming? Now, in theory, can I say, human eradication, yeah, that's what they're trying to do. Eliminate the human population because we're a little too fucking warm for this planet. Where there's a species of insect, and how they kill a creature is they swarm the hell out of it, vibrate, create heat, and literally heat stroke the goddamn thing. Well, in essence, in theory, then, humans being a virus, a plague on this planet, huddling over in one area, Florida, the black hole. I call that the black hole of the world, not just this country, the world. And creating a shit fucking heat. The joke I come up with that is, look at that planet Venus. And there's always that line of or phrase, all the women come from Venus or men come from penis. Something about a penis because of Venus. I don't recall. But regardless if it's male or female from Venus, it's an ice ball now. I haven't done the research to be honest about it, but when was the first for ice ages documented? Was that documented when mammalian life showed up on this earth, or were ice ages in existence when all the reptiles were around? Something happened, something evolved that brought this warmth, this unbalance to nature and temperature, and warm-blooded. I'm going to go with warm-blooded creatures. Warm-blooded, the introduction, of warm-blooded creatures created the idea of global warming, like cats purring. Sit on your lap, yeah, your leg gets a little warm. Cuddle up with your partner. You don't want that blanket on anymore. It's a bit hot. Well, my brother might say otherwise. I don't know if he overheats actually when he cuddles with his partner, but that's the idea. So Venus, the ice ball. Who's to say that mammals didn't once actually take over this planet of Venus and actually found a way? Star Trek now, we're Star Trekking. Found a way to uproot and move to another planet, Earth. And because all mammalian life left Venus, it no longer had a warmth to keep it at temperature. Now look at Walt Disney. Walt Disney's frozen cryogenically. This is where my joke came from, is Walt Disney, or my idea, my theory. His agreement is to defrost him when they find a cure for his illness, which also requires a cure for thawing, or de-thawing, or however that word is, thawing out the frozen corpse. Well, what if it takes a vibration to thaw him out properly? Well, I want to say it this way because who's to say that this motherfucking Walt Disney, what genius did he have that made him think that his Disney World and all this stuff was going to last so long that he'd have the financial incentive to keep his body cryogenically frozen? It's pedophile land. They haven't shut it down yet. Well, its home base is in Florida. Florida is exactly where your criminals come to train and then go back to their home states, try out what they've learned. If it fails or passes, they keep going until they need to come back to Florida to get away from it anyway. State of the criminal runaway. State of the born criminal. Good education system, so they claim, but fuck the gators as far as I'm concerned. It's just another reptile I got to deal with. Anyway, just a thought on a frozen planet and the global warming of this earth and the potential ideology that they're eliminating the human population, coronavirus, to weed out the warmth of this planet. And then they'll put it on your cars, they'll put it on your chimneys and your fireplaces and everything else. Yeah, it's fuck you, Al Gore. But I have my own thought of 1 + 1. You gave me the 2 and the 2, and every time I asked for another piece of information, you gave me another 2. I'm going to break it down. I'm sorry, but I need to see the math. I need to see the science. I need to see it to believe it. And in a sense, that's kind of how that works for me. And one of the last things I shared was literally a poem that I wrote in college. Men are from Mars and women are from Venus. Okay, so that's how it works. Really? Well, how about that whole penis joke? Oh, well, to each their own. A poem, one of many that I actually wrote for a class. And here's an interesting perspective, or something I want you all to think about. This college shut down many classes due to there not being enough students enrolled in the class. This class was supposed to get shut down, and this is what they told me. I think I was dropping a class, and the lady that I was talking to was telling me, here's the other options. I was doing it also at the beginning of the semester, where you just barely have the chance to switch your classes if you didn't enjoy one. Well, I didn't enjoy one, and it wasn't a mandatory requirement, so I did have it dropped. Disagreement with the professor. And they gave me a class that was on offer with my degree program, and I think it was either creative writing or some kind of a writing class. I can't exactly remember what it is. I don't have my transcript in front of me. But I ended up writing, I think, 7 or 8 poems for the class in total. Oh, the class only had 4 people. Why was that class allowed to go on? Hey, at this point, I don't care. I got my piece of paper. The class went on. I got my degree. It's over and done with. So here's one of the poems. And I can't remember the style of poem. You have to forgive me for that. Education was such a bullshit thing for me, and I have no practical use for this poem and the way the poem is written. It doesn't help me distinguish anything about another human being out there and the way and pattern that they write and what it defines to me about them. I got a confused little girl in this house. It's more than enough to figure out as is. So I'm going to share with you my poem verbally and out loud for those of you who can't or don't follow on the Facebook portion of the group. I met somebody at a local Wawa's here, and they don't have a Facebook, so I will read it in case he's watching. The poem is called The Angel of Death, and the idea I can remember about the poem is the last word needs to rhyme with one word on the next sentence, and your title has to be included in the 3rd line. I mean, there's more bylaws on how it was supposed to be written, and I abided by the rules and regulations of the professor's way, so I'll read it to you now. He is here and he is there, everywhere, the angel of death. A dirty job that must be done, fun for him, the angel of death. Upon visitation, we, already weeping, reaping is the dance of the angel of death. To claim the souls of the lifeless, soulless is he, the angel of death. The moment we meet, lying on my deathbed, dead is I, accepting the angel of death. Leading me to a land forsaken, heaven, I thought, but not with the angel of death. Greeted by St. Peter, he says to me, oh well, hell is my destination, led by the angel of death. Confronted by sadness and drowning in sorrow, borrow, I thought, a soul from the angel of death. My home is eternity, infinity is the number of the angel of death, or the number of the beast, to each their own, however you'd like to look at that. Anybody trying to figure out why I couldn't borrow a soul from the angel of death, and maybe why this angel of death is claiming souls but is soulless themselves? They don't have any. He's got a job to do. That's the artist, the writer, is in interpretation of his own writing. But those are the main questions I end up getting with this. Well, why couldn't he just borrow a soul? And why would he want to borrow a soul? To come back to life, to reincarnate or some form of, get back. Death was not for me. Hell is not the place I want to be. And can I please change it? I think Catholics believe in purgatory. And one of the jokes I heard is it's like, I don't know, a couple of thousand years per sin, but you'll be forgiven. Here's a 211 perspective on that purgatory idea. So you're in purgatory, and you have X amount of 1,000 years per sin. Let's just say you have 50 sins. So we have 50,000 years. We'll call it 1,000 years per sin, just for the sake of the story. No matter what, you're stuck in purgatory for 50,000 years. What's the purpose of just living out your sentence? Or are you doing 50,000 years as mandatory punishment to eventually forgive yourself for that or those sins before you enter the supposed gates? Because Catholics believe that you just do your time in purgatory. There is no hell. You go straight to heaven. Then what the hell is the Old Testament for? What is the story of Genesis and the creation of all this stuff? And there is a heaven and there's a hell in those stories. I forgot Catholicism was a branch. That's segregation. I forgot there's segregation. And so you're in purgatory. You know what you're supposed to do originally. You know it's just got to be done. But sitting there for so long, who's to say you forgot why you're there? Or you forgot a sin? one you were supposed to remember, and the story is that you'd be shown your whole life story again, so in theory you'd see it again and be able to forgive yourself. Okay, so what if you can't? What if you did rape a child? You have to watch that again. Can you live with yourself? Can you forgive yourself, or do you accept hell now? What if there's a murder or a kill in your life that you yeah, that was actually something, right? Where's the heaven then? Can you forgive yourself for that? Well, anyway, there goes purgatory right out the window. I don't believe in that stuff. Bunch of shit, bunch of garbage. I still believe that, in my own perspective, the shining light saw something shady in his father and he got punished for that. It's my way of looking at it, my perspective on that story. Leading a horse to war, we did that. Leading a soldier to war. Now I'm going to repeat that one again because you think you're in control. I was rewatching a series of House yesterday. It wasn't in today's House binge watching. It was yesterday's binge watch. Start off with season 3, if I'm not mistaken. LL Cool J is in there, and he introduces the idea. Well, Dr. House introduces the idea to the patient, which is LL Cool J, the singer, the artist. Why'd you try to kill yourself? And LL Cool J would respond, while I'm there, I'm told when to stand, when to sit, what to eat, when to do, what to do. I feel like, and when I'm going to die. So this is one thing I finally had control of. So he didn't feel guilty about his suicidal attempt. Here's an extension of that suicidal attempt story. If we know we are killing ourselves, how is that not suicidal? Those of us, like myself, with all due respect, smoke cigarettes knowing it's going to kill you, the tobacco, the inhalation. It's not committing suicide willingly. Here's a perspective. If I know I have a traitor amongst my group who will eventually lead to my downfall, did I not just set myself up for a willing death? I accepted a willing death, a willing negative outcome. Did Jesus not know about Judas and willingly suicided into his crucifixion? It's a perspective that I look upon. It's a way to look at a story, martyring himself, but can also be defined by the beauty of the beholder as a suicidal attempt. Man committed suicide. What's the story that follows up after his death? Because remember, there is the cross and then the upside down cross, St. Peter's cross, which is supposedly where my Antioch Christian backgrounds come from. Let me share this too. This is a conspiracy that I have to think about. I have to, because it's part of my life. My whole family is baptized Greek Orthodox of Christian nature. I'm the only Russian Orthodox baptized that I know of in my family line. It's called the Church of Three Saints in Garfield. It's a Russian Orthodox church. So in theory and by technicality, like the Blue Angel tire change, I'm actually a Russian Orthodox of Christian background. I had to do some research to figure out differences and stuff. It's no difference. They just speak Russian. I'm sure there's more in there in the language, but I can't translate the Russian language, and I can't dig into it that much yet. But it's an interesting thing to think about. I'm an Orthodox variation of Christianity. We don't celebrate Christmas on December 25th, but more on January 20-something or January something, 16th. I don't even know because I don't care. I don't care about holidays. It's meaningless stuff that have segregated the idea of that day in the first place to humans who were originally following it. It's just a business scheme now. It's all sales. There's no sales. They can make those computers for $100, but you're still going to spend $400 on it because of a brand name. Keep following that. That's all on you guys. Whatever. I'm more the type that's going to see this kind of stuff, and I would like to call it out. And thankful to a public platform, somebody else will eventually see this, hear it, and say, you know what? I'm fucking fed up too. I got money washing going on over here. I got laundromats all over here, but I'm not allowed to because they'll kill me. I've worked for laundromats. I've worked for money washers. I've been fired or let go or asked to leave because I knew and said too much. I don't give a flying fuck. I don't feel right working for you. Another reason why I'm doing this Laughing Lamp thing. At this point, I have to find a way to support myself and my family in a way that I feel correct. I feel good doing it this way. I like speaking my mind this way. And there's a reason I'm doing this as well. I know it can sound crazy and it can sound holy fuck out there. Then please tell me why those that I run into every day, not just the security guards, and I finally have the chance to share this wild mind of mine, I only receive confirmations from these people that tell me, oi, kiddo, yeah, but, Why do I get those responses from strangers? I don't complain about them, but they will complain about me. Too big of a fucking mouth. Found out the corruption within their communities, which Knights of the Round Tables they hang out in. How much do I know? I was invited to groups. I know quite a lot. Here's a story. I love sharing this one. When I first moved down here, I got a job at the local store. Can't give away the name. I met a coworker in the same department who ends up being the son of a former politician down here. The son shared his stories of drug use and abuse. He also shared the story of, due to the fact that his father was a politician with a reputation to protect, his father hired a service, I think from Ohio, another state, that literally kidnapped him from his house and took him to a drug camp to detox or something. He confessed to me later, this is why I have a thing against this garbage. It's nothing more than an amphetamine training camp. Your Lexapro training camps. Your Adderall training camps. Your Ritalin training camps. They train you to be under the influence. They tell you that you have seen a new light. This is what he said. They introduce what you have is of higher being than those other humans you will go back to interacting with. So please recognize your higher authority from these little ants that you can hold a magnifying glass to. That's his confession. I like to root out truths and get the one and ones out of him. And I swear to God, at the end of breaking down this kid, we don't talk anymore. I figured out too much. I know too much about his family, and I know too much about him. And yes, it's impacted me very negatively in the community due to the name that I know that's being tarnished. This name is trying to run again. If not, I believe they're already still in office. I know my secrets. I know my share of shit. And I don't mind talking that about them, that they exist. Maybe one day I'll drop the balls and actually drop the names of every motherfucker that I know as a name you should look up and follow. I worked at another store in the same state, the same store but a different location, and I met somebody who was on probation there. He was actually my department head while I worked there. And he immediately confessed that he had a felonious record, he's on probation, and he only needs this as a legitimate source of income and proof that he's doing okay. So I, of course, curious catted his information, and sure enough, money laundering scheme caught in Miami or Orlando, and he's attached to one of the 5 family names. But his name is Smith, as I was taught is a witness protection program name. But regardless, white man named Smith, and he's done with that job now, and I don't know where he's at, but I bet you he's money laundering and credit card scheming again. One of the New Jersey jobs that I had, I met a lot of temp agency guys. And one of the guys that worked in the department with me before I ended up leaving there told me a story of why he's not allowed back in the state of New York for his credit card schemes and frauds. And he's in New Jersey, because he can't go to New York. But he can only go through a temp service because he has a felonious record. He taught me one thing only, really. 12. Huh? Right. As far as I was concerned, that was a code talk for them in jail to say that the 5-0 was coming there. The cops were on their way. Security's on the way. Tighten your act and get your shit together before they get here. So he taught me the meaning of 12. And considering the department I was in at the time, it was very easy to, we'd hide in the trucks, shipping and receiving. And whether there were boxes coming or not, if I saw an authoritative figure on the way down, I'd always say, yo, there's 12 more boxes coming. And he'd put his phone away, and actually 6 or 7 other guys would put their phones away and come out together. Bunch of idiots. They ruined the whole thing. One at a time, will you? One at a time. But hey, I can't coach you through that. You are the one that went through it, and you're the one that was supposed to act it out appropriately. I'm just doing the piece of knowledge that I knew. 12. So I'm going to go back to this very important post, leading a horse to water. You can't make him drink. Well, if you knew the water was bad, would you lead your horse away from it? I bring that up interestingly because law enforcement everywhere knows where their drug dens are. That is your bad pot of water. Why aren't we cleaning them up? Why aren't we pulling our sons and daughters out of them shitty crack hotels? We need them there. I can't speak for the truth on that, but we need them there. We need them there. And only when I need something do I use it against you and pull you over as a random pullover. I ran into a situation at one point where, listen, it's a training officer. He was a patrolman. He was new on the squad. And he had 3 sergeants watching him do his job. And every time he did something, he'd confer with the sergeants. That's a training mission, guys. It's not a legitimate pull. Well, I mean, I'm sure they had a legitimate reason to pull you over in the first place, but everything that came and unfolded after that, it's all part of the training mission. They know who they're pulling over. And in this state, boy, are there a lot of probationary people and parolees with workers' licenses and things. But because that tag is registered to you, regardless, you're going to be looked at. You better 3 Mississippi stop at every stop sign. You better blinker and signal every goddamn turn. You better never hit that gas too hard by accident, and keep your tags up to date at all times. It's very interesting the way they would like to work. And I speak from not only my experience here, but I was an intern through college at a police department in the police department records. And I learned quite a lot of shady shit on how records are done, how people get away with bullshit fucking police reports. See, I called it out on my internship, and the lieutenant I was working for, the internal psychiatrist, couldn't shut me up. But she threatened me with, I'll send you out of here and drop you out of here and you lose your credits. So I ended up doing what the fuck I had to do to keep it. She told the captain, and I spoke with this captain, who, as far as I'm concerned, is a Arnold Schwarzenegger looking African American. big guy, muscular, but well-spoken. And you can tell he was educated, and he tried to find out why I'm opening my mouth. And I told him because I want to be a cop, and I thought cops were supposed to fix this kind of stuff. Nope. Police reports, depending on a certain name. Okay, here's where the story unfolded. There's a gentleman who was just released out of jail for a domestic disturbance, a domestic violence act against his wife, and they took his firearms away. Most people in the state of New Jersey don't get their firearms back for such a crime, or there's a really long waiting period before you're allowed to, without violence, before you're allowed to pick them up again. Well, this gentleman had just got out and shut my mouth. Who the hell am I to say anything? He got his firearms that day. So when is he going to use it on his wife? When is he going to use it to actually harm her with the fire? He hit her with a fucking hand. But because it's a domestic violence, they take the firearms away. It's mandatory. Same as the medical field, who shows up at certain calls. It's a mandatory ride to the hospital, whether you got Medicare insurance or anything like that. The call was a drug use. In this state, we got to take you. Sorry, whether you have the money or not, you're forced into paying for the ride. Well, that's the way it works. The big number 2. Just sit on it and spin, motherfuckers. You're going to remember that saying. I think I have stressed enough today on what I wanted to say and how I wanted to say it today. I'm going to be a little bit more vibrant, and outspoken. I'm going to be a lot of swear words and salty coding. I have to. Life is too fucked up to sit here and just say, it's just the way it is. No, it's not. Be a changing factor to make your neighborhoods good for your children, for Christ's sake. You want to show them that's just the way it is. Nobody can convince you otherwise. But you're not going to get the respect of the title that you are when that child grows up and realizes, you taught me this, but I really had to do this. We all burn our hands. They're going to make mistakes. We make mistakes. We still make mistakes. And we try to teach the correction to that to our less knowledgeable folk. And they're going to burn their hands anyway. So don't get mad at them for going against your advice. Don't be too upset when they use it against you that it's your fault. Yes and no. And yes and no. You shouldn't. I told you not to. You did it anyway. And I told you if you did do it, you might want to be careful. Because you introduce the safe way to do something, of course they're going to try it. And they don't know what they're doing. So the safe way actually ends up becoming the most dangerous way to do it. Interesting how psychiatry works and psychology and all that other crap and your brain, how that actually works. We were kids once. So actually we know how our kids are thinking. Whether you're on the medications or not, you thought a certain way. And when your child approaches you with a certain thought pattern, you should be able to recognize that, call it out, and guide them. Not burning. Be a light for your own family. Hello? Be an amp for them in your own lamp. They need you. And you've been there. whether you had somebody there for you or not, you learned something about your experience. Hate it, regret it, can't believe you had to go through it. Why me? Ignore that. Because eventually, male or female, your daughter is going to have to experience certain things. Your sons will experience certain things. And I don't sit here and say that I'm okay with my son's sexual life versus my daughter's sexual life. First thing I was taught was, please stop watching pornography. I'm going to hit on something very important here. Please stop watching pornography, because they don't introduce to you the correct way of having sex, making love, creating a beautiful act. And I understood that later on in my life. This is where I'm going to go with this. For all you sick, perverted fucks that are out there that don't understand why the other fucks, sickos, are there. Look at today's, we'll try to be sensible. Look at today's 12 to 16-year-old girls. They are developed pretty early nowadays, and a lot of them are, and I don't come from, but I know a family that's developing their little girls by 9 years old, young. Now let's look at that barely legal 18-year-old porno. Sorry to filth your minds, but don't they look the same to the same 65-year-old man watching it? 65-year-old man, 32-year-old man, 20-some-odd-year-old man had a craving for Miss 18, barely legal, just made it, high school graduate type of girl. And now your 13-year-old looks like that. And now this guy's dick is hard whether he wants it to be or not. What a sick fucking world. But how dare I correlate pornography and your search preferences to the sickness of that adult and that child, and your quinceañeras and your bar mitzvahs? Go fuck yourselves. You segregate the difference yourself. You'll never unite the idea because it's a sick fucking mind. Well, your DNA is pretty sick. And let's just leave it there. I think that's good enough for today's session, ladies and gentlemen. I will leave it open for a Q&A since I have quite a few people in here today. Just for a few minutes, if you want anything to say, a comment on something, you want my opinion, a perspective on something, or have a question about a background of mine that you'd like answered, feel free. This is the opportunity I'll give you now. Other than that, for those of you who are done, thank you once again for joining another session of The Laughing Lamp with your host, Jin of The Lamp, your innermost fear, because I ain't afraid to say what the fuck's on our mind. Plain and simple. A couple of minutes here for anybody that has a question. Otherwise, once again, I thank you. Hopefully, I start getting a little bit more confident. Like I said, I'm working on it. I'm going to get more confident with the way I present myself. I'm going to get more characteristic, if you will, charismatic. And if you guys have any idea, I've been thinking about doing, I'd hate to ruin the program, a potential daily show, but I don't want to, see, those are like rushing into the, I got an idea, I got to get it out there. I need to building block it. So actually just forget what I just said. I'm going to continue posting potential notes for the upcoming videos every week. And there is a method to the madness for when I do it anyway, because it's the 6th day of the week at 8 o'clock. And I was born on 8/6. 89 has some extra things to it, but we'll get into that perhaps on a different discussion about myself. As I start talking about the things I've seen growing up in my own house, at my friends' houses, what I saw in school, what led to my military decision, how my military experience was, how it led to which college I chose afterwards, and the decision I actually had of getting out, what led me out instead of re-enlisting. I'll be explaining more of that, and we'll see what the news has for the rest of this week. That I'll be commenting and posting on. And I promise you this much. I'm going to rain some fucking salt on every goddamn thing that I can. I'm going to stress that very much. Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me for another session of The Laughing Lamp. It's been a pleasure to see you all today. And for those of you who would like to watch the video after it posts, please like, share, and if you want to, subscribe to my YouTube. And if you have any means, it's always appreciated to check out my PayPal and donate what you can. It's always appreciated. We all have families to take care of, and I am attempting to make this a main source of income eventually. I mean, again, whether it works out or not, I'm going to do it till I die. That I can promise. And if I ever go missing for a quiet reason, I live in Treasure Coast of Florida, and my family knows exactly who to target should anything go wrong. Yeah, I speak that way on purpose because I know what I'm saying, and I know the risks I put myself in, and that's fine. Somebody's got to do it, and I await my crucifixion. Thank you very much. I'm Jin of the Lamp, your innermost fear. Take care and be safe.